just finger gunned me right into the parking lot. I said, "Oh, okay, so this is how it's
Coco
going."
was a solid backup. Chris has been shitting on Coco all year.
God, this guy
I'm
Coco Johnson,
look,
you're
I'm
gonna
riding
put him
that
in
Coco
double-digit
bandwagon
goals.
all year.
He couldn't even get off the plane properly. He got hurt right off the steps.
But yet you're making love videos for Robbie Robinson.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Chris, the Herons are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 55, the Double Dime. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Granada, alongside me, Mr. KBD himself. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, baby. It's game time today. I mean, what are we talking about? And it's episode 55. One of my best favorite point guards, Jason Williams, aka White Chocolate.
Himself. Yes, sir.
Yeah, which I mean happened to play for the Heat, but let's not talk about all that. Let's not go there.
Also, Woo Wednesday.
It is Woo Wednesday. Yes.
Ted Lasso Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday's a lot of things going on.
Wednesday's starting to get good during the week, right?
Yeah, especially because the Battered Herons are on the Wednesdays. That's why it's the best. All right. So, like we do every Wednesday, we're going to preview Saturday's game. We have somebody to come on. But before we introduce our guest, I did want to touch on yesterday's game, right? We got to talk about yesterday's game. So,
I guess.
Charleston Battery, USL team, we played them. We didn't look great. The only goal we scored was an own goal. I know that you were hyped for it. You were watching it. What did you think about yesterday's game?
The same thing that the broadcasters thought. I thought the same thing. It was a bore fest.
It was a bore
right.
fest.
Like who wants to watch that kind of soccer? Absolutely nobody.
Not Don Garber. I'll tell you that.
God bless the fans that sat in our seats, and which I saw some yellow jerseys. So let's not even figure out how that happened. Yeah. But it was a brutal game. But a win's a win, I guess, in soccer, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that stood out yesterday was Borgelin.
Yes.
Borgelin had a gimme, and he sailed it, right? A lot of people have high hopes for Borgelin. Yeah. And I mean, he hasn't since the first game. Has he scored since the first game? I guess that against Miami FC, he had that header.
Yes, yeah.
But
I mean, we got to count that. You got to count that.
Yeah, no, for sure. You got. I mean, Franco won't, but we do. So we count that, and I mean, he hasn't looked like we would hope, but I mean, I think that was the highlight. That was the highlight. That and Negri finally being put on offense, like I've been asking for all year.
Yes, and I'll tell you what stood out to me. Other than that, was the fact that this kid David Ruiz, that literally just came out of like a cereal box. Yeah, just straight out of the womb. This guy showed some pretty nice promise, some nice passes. He was looking ahead, and then Borgelin just, he dropped the deuce on a couple of them and couldn't follow through with the goals. So, I mean, maybe it's just the inexperience that's kicking in, but I'm hoping I don't see too much of that more often later on, especially when the games matter.
Luckily, 1 we won, and 2 are riding technically a 4-game winning streak, right? 2 MLS wins, regular season, 2 USL Open Cup wins, but technically it's still 4 wins in a row, and that's why nobody's going to kill Phil Neville for that performance yesterday, because it's 4 wins in a row rather than the 6-game losing streak we were riding back then. But
I mean, all these Facebook clowns, you can keep being Facebook clowns. I'll buy you guys all a mask because you guys are idiots. Okay, well, not all of you, but just a couple of. Maybe I went a little too drastic there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like 10% of you Facebook fans are just absolutely obnoxious.
All right.
Okay.
So moving on from yesterday, let's move on to the regular season. The big game this Saturday. We're playing against the New England Revolution, which are number 1 in the East, and I want to say just about everybody discounted them as a contender this year. And to talk about the New England Revolution, we have Tommy from 790 The Score joining us. Where you at, Tommy? There you are.
Hello.
What's going on, Tommy?
What's up, boys? Good evening. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Well, the first thing that I want to say is thank you for not having one of those disgusting Boston accents. I appreciate
I'm not
that.
from Boston, so I'm from New
exactly.
York.
Well, I appreciate that. Because
Providence, and I'm actually, so 790 The Score, you can catch New England Soccer Weekly every Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. We're actually down here in Providence, and Providence is more like Brooklyn than it is Boston.
Nice.
Look at that.
Well, Sam Mitten's kicking in that you're the swollest member of the Revs press corps, so You're out there throwing bows against the press members.
Oh,
I'm out
geez.
here looking brolic. All right.
Appreciate it.
So let's get straight into it. New England. I didn't see it. They ended up like 10th last year in the standings in the Eastern Conference. And from what I saw, all the experts, right? Because they're experts, but they don't know what they're talking about either. Nobody really had them any higher than maybe finishing 8th, maybe 7th. They started the season. They're in first place.
Yeah.
What exactly is it that everybody was missing, that we were missing, that New England's got going for them right now?
We were missing it up here too. I mean, I am one of the people guilty that came into the season like, all right, this is probably a really boring team this year. They made a bunch of additions that are more of Bruce's guys, which is a continuation of what we saw last year with Josie, Omar, and Sebastian. But the difference is that Bruce's guys are coming through, and the record for that is in Bruce's favor over the career that he's had here in New England. Then it goes against him than what happened in 2022. I think for the most part, 2022 was an anomaly because of Turner's injury at the beginning of the year. Then you lose Turner and Buxa. You don't have Tajon, and there's no – it always felt like it was going to be a transition year when everybody – the guys that they said that were going to leave, and it just didn't seem like they had the ability to replace at least Tajon and Buxa. I think they really got lucky with Georgia. I think it was a crapshoot to go out and get this unproven young kid. Then he's come over here and set the league on fire. But to replace Tajon and Adam was really tough, and they just. Bruce talks all the time about, it takes guys from international countries to get more adjusted to this league. And that might be true, but I felt like that they had the money to go out there and make an instant impact immediately because a lot of the key pieces are there for what you need to be a championship team. So I think they just took a risk with Barrero and Vrioni. Barrero couldn't stay healthy throughout the entire season that he was part of the New England roster, so that hurt. Vrioni came in late. He came in injured, and he was given a grace period to get adjusted to MLS, and it was always, in everybody's mind that Vrioni was going to be the thing that the Revs, is going to carry them in 2023. And the way the season ended and, for the taste that you got of Vrioni, it felt like, this is not the team that went down as the greatest MLS team ever in 2021. It just feels like there's something missing. Gustavo Bo's getting older. It didn't feel like at the time that they had the answers in the midfield to support Matt Polster, which allows Gustavo to go play up higher. And, the Revs can play in an attacking way that is what got them to the top of the league in 2021. So because it worked with Tommy and Matt when they had that 2-set system, and it's a little bit harder for Matt to work alone, and I think they've found that answer again with Latif Blessing. So
it seems tricky.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there was a lot of questions coming into the year because of the guys that were coming into this team were just more MLS guys that didn't really, you feel like, make an impact. But Dave Romney's work definitely went underappreciated in Nashville because what he's done here in New England is really a big part of the reason why you're seeing the first place start that you are. He's just so good. He's so calm back there. He's melded into this defense perfectly, and they've needed him because Andrew was hurt to start the year. So instead of having to go to Omar, which has gone against this team a lot last year, you can go to a veteran like Romney who understands how Bruce wants to play, and that's been a big difference maker for the first 11 games here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I was gonna mention because Hazel Lopez commented, "Who's a New England goalkeeper coach? New England is a goalkeeper's factory." Because you mentioned Turner, and now you guys have Petrovic. It seems like you guys got a pretty solid, I guess, goalkeepers coach out there, like a factory.
Kevin Hitchcock, and I learned this the other day. I'm pretty sure I forget who I heard this from, but Kevin Hitchcock is a big part of the reason why you've seen a lot of the success with Matt Turner and Georgi Petrovic. And he was actually brought into the club by Brad Friedel. And when Brad Friedel got fired, instead of leaving, Hitchcock stayed here in New England and he joined Bruce Arena's staff. And it's a real testament to how good of a coach that he is, that those two guys have been really the top keepers in the league for the last, 4 years now, arguably, when you combine Turner's 2019, 2020, 2021. I think a lot of us are just not going to accept what happened in 2022. And you can blame U.S. soccer for that, in my opinion. But then Georgia comes in and it's a seamless transition where, it solidifies that back line. And, you really are starting to see what the pieces are coming back together for what got you to the promised land in 2021. Now you just need that offensive production. And unfortunately, you're not getting that with Giacomo Vrioni. You are getting that with Bobby Wood. And I think Bobby Wood is, an underappreciated member of this roster. But to go back to, the original question about who the goalkeeper coach is, it's Kevin Hitchcock. And it's, he's definitely a big part of, the success of, what Turner and Georgie have been.
I was looking at the last couple of lineups you guys have put out there. Do you guys have a revolving door at striker? Because sometimes I saw Bobby Wood was starting last week. Vrioni was starting 3 weeks ago. Somebody else 2 weeks ago. What's going on at striker?
You play guess the injury every week with the New England Revolution.
Got it. So everybody's healthy though.
What's going to happen? Do you guys throw down some money week to week on MLS?
It's illegal in Florida.
Oh, it's illegal still in Florida. Oh, I'm so sorry, because in New England you can do that.
No,
and
must be nice.
In between Rhode Island, New Hampshire, I don't know if Maine you can do it, but Massachusetts this year they legalized sports betting, online sports betting, and Bruce has kept everybody on their toes week to week with who is going to be in and out of this lineup. And if you're a betting person, it's hard to place any money on the Revs because you just don't know who's going to be in the lineup on any given game day. The injury report came out today.
If they're all healthy, wouldn't it be Vrioni?
If they're all healthy, it should be Bo and Vrioni. They should be playing in that two-striker set, which is what they did with Buxa and Bo back in 2021. But it's a revolving door because you never know who's injured and who's not. And it's miserable if you're a sports bettor. And I only bring up the sports betting part of it because Forbes magazine called out Bruce for this. So back I think it was at the beginning of the season. Bruce omitting names out of injury reports, and you go into game day and you find out, Gustavo Bo's not here this week, or Giacomo Vrioni. So we have a new game that we play here in New England. It's Guess the Absentee. And and this week, we'll see who they surprise us with, because you never know.
Nice.
All right. Well, one person that we know is always going to be there is Carlos Gil, right?
Yes.
Now, MVP was 2021, was it?
2021, yeah.
Yeah, 2021. So he's the constant. He's the motor that makes everything run. How's he been looking this season, though?
Generally the same. I think the thing about Carlos that I've noticed more of last year than you saw in 2021, and I think you've seen it at times this year, is that I think he can get lost in the game a little bit. Everybody always has something nice to say about Carlos, and yes, he does amazing things on the field. He has incredible vision. Nobody does a better job distributing the ball for this team, period. And, there's not, and every team in this league would kill to have him. I just think sometimes Carlos looks for the foul from the refs, because he does get hit a lot. I think it's indisputable that he gets banged around a lot throughout the course of 90 minutes. But I think sometimes he plays too much to the referee or the whistle. And I think that sometimes could be to the detriment of the offense. And I think it hasn't happened as much this year. It happened a lot more last year. But I think when he does it and he doesn't get those calls to go his way, I think his attitude shifts on the field. I think he loses focus a little bit, and I think that's kind of a downside to his game if you could find one. Not many people talk about it because there's so much good to talk about with Carlos, and I get it.
Right.
But if you're watching games week to week like us, I think the frustrating thing with Carlos from time to time is that I think he plays too much, looking for a foul. And hey, listen, so I guess you got to do that if you're a creative player. But I think it starts to get to a point where your attitude is reflected because you're not getting those calls, and it's slowing down the offense as a whole. I think that's a problem.
He's playing like Julius Randle, Chris. You heard that?
Yeah, I know he's playing like Julius Randle.
All right, now you go ahead, Chris.
And no, talking a little bit about that, right? When you're leaning towards the whistle, and the best thing about playing at home is the home team typically gets the whistle blown for their benefit for the most part. Now, you guys have a record of 2-1-1 over 4 road games, right? And historically here, or at least within the last year and change, we've been pretty strong at home, right? So with the record that you guys have 2-1-1, other than a couple wins, a bunch of wins that you guys are collecting, how do you see the team faring against Miami this weekend?
Well, let's see. It's been interesting for the Revs on the road in Inter in the past. It's one of those things where I think the
you
Revs
guys were our get right game last year. That's where Campana let off that hat trick, and when we started rolling.
There's honestly, last year was so miserable that I try to block out a lot of it because you go from you're watching the best team in the league and you're watching the future of the upcoming World Cup, and then you go to 2022 and it's just one bad loss week after 1 week after the other. So to be honest, I even forget that beatdown from Miami.
Yeah.
But I will say that the Revs have been really solid on the road this year. I think you take out the LAFC game, and
you guys got spanked.
Which you had Carlos Hill injured at the time. Gustavo Bo was just getting back to America from Argentina, and I mean, this LAFC team is going to.
It was a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah, it was just nothing was going right that week, and you were going up against the best team in the league in Los Angeles. It's not going to go well. So nobody takes that game and puts that as where this team as a road team. I thought you saw real grit. Yeah, I think the best win of the season just came this past weekend versus Toronto. I think they completely controlled that game. Toronto was completely taken out, and it couldn't get anything going, offensively with Bernardeschi. And I thought it was a real testament to how locked down this defense has been with Romney and Farrell, and Dewan and Brandon really have excelled this year as well, just playing both sides of the field. So I think you're going to get a really tough match this weekend. I haven't seen too much of Miami. I would say that I did have Michelle Kaufman on from the Miami Herald on my podcast today, New England Soccer Weekly, which will drop this Friday at noon on our YouTube page, New England Soccer Weekly. And, she broke down what I think is going to be interesting for both sides, because I think both sides, could be tapping into their youth this weekend. Michelle talked about how Miami's banged up right now, and two of your young midfielders will be making the start this weekend, more than likely. I think the Revs could see Noel Buck start this weekend.
He had a great game this past weekend.
Yeah, he's been on fire recently. I think again, you talk about what the biggest difference is from last year to this year, your youth, and the fact that, your MLS, Bruce-esque MLS signings have done really well. Those two things have been a recipe for success this year.
And Esteban Dito brings up here, the New England Revolution is the MLS football club that does not intimidate and are overlooked, but somehow they play solid football in a quiet manner. So I definitely agree with that. And
that's Bruce ball for you. That's exactly. It's nothing fancy. You have a lot of guys that are not afraid to take guys on one-on-one. It's when it's done right, it's really
It's
fun
a beautiful
to watch.
thing.
It's really fun to watch.
That's so New England.
Fast.
Bill Belichick, Bruce Arena. It's all just boring and
Coach speak,
ugh.
coach setup.
It's very.
Let me-
It's
Let me not
so
tell you
dry
who's
up
gonna
there.
start. Ugh.
Well, I mean,
Does the
it's
sun
almost
even
more
come out
fun
up
when
there?
they're losing because more people are freaking out and people have the most irrational takes sometimes. I mean, I don't know what you're going after the Miami Facebook group, and I don't know how they are on Twitter.
Which
But-
Esteban Dito to me represents, even though I don't think he's on there, but he had a good point there. Yes.
But the Revs hashtag and the Revs Twitter world is a whole different beast when the Revs are losing. When they're winning, it's great. It's everybody's happy and it's kind of boring, and Bruce is not going to go in depth on things just because let me get back to work. Things are working. Let me not talk to you media.
Right.
It's got to be a war zone after a loss.
Exactly. When
It's a
things
war
were
zone.
losing last year, Bruce would have therapy sessions with us after games. So it was almost better.
So you guys run out of 4-2-3-1, or is that something we can expect, or do you think we're looking at something different?
I think you'll probably see a 4-2-3-1 this weekend. I don't see how Giacomo Vrioni personally starts right now. For Bobby Wood gets the goal the other night, and one of my colleagues up here, Seth Maycomer from the Blazing Musket, which I implore everybody to go check out, did a really good job breaking down.
So New England.
I know it
That
hurts.
is
Musket.
just
Put a musket in there.
I know.
like how
Hey,
1776
Look,
is that?
no, I'm not taking away from any of the content. I'm just saying, like, man, it's so New England.
It hurts. I get it, but I love those guys over there. Sam Minton.
No, I'm sure they're
Seth
great. I'm sure they're
Maycomer.
great.
And so Seth did a really good job this week breaking down how Bobby Wood's pressure, led to the opening goal the other night versus Toronto. And I think you want to keep that right now, especially on the road. I don't think you want to put Giacomo Vrioni out there this weekend against an Inter Miami team that, as you said at the top, has won 4 straight games. He hasn't done much to, I think, outside of scoring against Montreal and Kansas City, which, he hasn't done anything to really blow you off the television. Bobby Wood's been the guy this year for them up top, and I think he starts as your number 9 this weekend. I think maybe you do see Noel Buck. It wouldn't shock me. He's gotten a lot of minutes, and I think he's earned it. Hopefully Latif Blessing's back in the lineup full time at this point because now he's back from Ghana with his family, which was a big thing for him. He also had a laceration earlier this year, which required stitches, and it seems like that's all cleared up. So if he's all healthy to go, he should be starting. And then the question is, what do you do at left mid or left wing? And I think it could be Ima Boateng. It seems like that probably is the option.
Played last week, right?
Yeah, he played last week.
week.
And, he's I think he's wildly underpaid because he's done a great job at points in the past couple of years, getting the Revs back into games, taking over leads. Like when you need a guy that's got to be a spark off the bench, he's been that spark off the bench and reliable for 3 straight seasons now. So yeah, he probably should start this weekend against Inter. And then back line's been consistent all year. It's Jones, it's Romney, it's Farrell now. That's only inconsistent part because of Henry Kessler's not in the lineup because of the hamstring surgery that he needed to get. That's got him out for the next 4 months, and then Brandon By. So, and then obviously Georgie. So you have some pretty solid bodies back there. It's a question of what do you do up top, and that's kind of the great unknown as we deal with week to week. I would say another name that you probably could watch out for this weekend too is Justin Rennicks, who has scored against Miami down there. Bruce has been high on him the last couple of weeks, so we'll see.
Speaking of up high, do you guys press high?
I wish I played for the Revs. I know you guys. I just when you say you guys, it's already throws me off. I'm not gonna
right.
Because somebody's gonna watch this and go, "Oh no!" Because I'm usually the very critical one. Like people know me as like But anyways, so it's funny. It's nothing. I'm sorry. It's sidetracked.
As not one of you guys.
Every now and then on my show.
It's okay.
Your question is, do they play a more attacking style than anything else?
Yeah, like an aggressive pressing where they try to turn you over when the ball's with the back. Because the reason I say that is because that might have affected us in the past. when we were trying to build up out of the back.
Sure.
But we're
and
not
that's-
really
that's
playing that
exactly
style
what-
anymore.
That's
playing the long
something
ball
that,
now.
That's something that again, I'll go back to what my colleague Seth Maycomer pointed out on his videos, is that the Revs have done a really good job, especially last week against Toronto, not allowing teams to just build out of the back, with simple, passes. It's a lot of pressure. Guys are running hard for 90 minutes. He's not going to just come down there and sit back. Like they're going to press high. They're going to try to, force turnovers in the defensive end. And they're going to, Jones and Bai are going to be part of the attack very frequently. So the goal is to run Miami out of the building. Right. And I think that's what they try to do every week. They want to wear guys down. That's what I think it makes this team a lot of fun for people up here, because it's very gritty. It's very
right.
Well,
yeah.
No, and one of the benefits I think that you guys are going to have is we have Franco Negri, who's our left wing back, right? He's out of the game because he just got a red card 2 games ago. And so, yeah, well, last week, but I'm going to say 2 games ago because I got to count the game that we had, the Boarfest, right?
All right.
He's going to be out of the game. So that's going to be a benefit for you guys because he's a very aggressive and his motor's like running all the time. So as far as like, turning it around on us on counterattacks, I think that it's going to be a pretty big benefit to have him off the field. Do you think that you see that as a strength, or do you think that you have other things that are more strengths for the Revs?
I'd be lying. I haven't watched too much of Miami, but what I will say is that if the Revs are able to just counter the entire night and just let Carlos cook, at the top of the 18, because that's where he finds these little windows where guys will be cutting in and, they just buried in the back of the net. Could be a long night. I think that's, you want to be able to beat the Revs in the middle of the field. If you can break that midfield down, like of Polster and Blessing, and you can catch guys like Farrell out of position, then you have a good chance of getting him behind, I think. That's where the Revs have gotten caught in the past. But again, that's where they've also gotten better this year.
Capitalized, yep.
Because, now you have Latif Blessing next to Matt Polster to sort of plug in those holes, which is what you didn't have last year to a certain extent. So I think that's how, if Miami's going to score this weekend, that's how they're going to do it.
Yeah, and Jay La Rosa chimes in here. Without Negri, maybe Pizarro comes back in, which we haven't seen much of him in the last couple games.
Pizarro has been ruled out for the next month, so he won't be seeing Pizarro this week.
Oh, well, I guess we won't be seeing him at all.
No.
So let's go to the other side of the scale here then, Tommy, 2-time. So we talked a little bit about the strengths, and let's cover a little bit of the weaknesses, right? I know you mentioned that the weakness may be the striker position, but in your own words, I guess, if that's not it, what could be the weakness for the Revs?
I think it's the attack. Everything else is, really good. I mean, obviously you got to figure out how you replace Dylan Barrero now, right? Ima Boateng is a good temporary solution, but you need something more long-term versus, teams this year. And I think you want to get Ima to be that guy that comes off the bench and provides something late in the game again. So you have to replace Barrero. And then, in that same line of thinking, another weakness is that you just can't get guys healthy. Gustavo Bo's out this weekend versus Miami. We haven't seen Tommy Mack at all this year. We haven't seen Nacho Heel at all this year, the brother of Carlos Heel, which I think is a disaster because I feel like Carlos politicked his way to get his brother
nepotism.
A little bit of nepotism. I think a little bit of nepotism. I've said that on my show a lot. I think so. That's kind of been a waste. Henry's out. And every week it's play the guessing game of who's going to be out week to week. So injuries has been something that if this team was, I think, at full strength, I think there would be more of I think you would have won the game against Columbus earlier this year that you ended up tying. That I think Barrero, screwed you over on. It's tough to say, but hey, it is what it is. Does the LAFC game turn out differently if you're a little bit healthier? I don't know. But hey, you got to play the cards you're dealt with. And then finally, I think the other problem is going back, I think, to striker, is that you don't have a real aerial threat, which has been something that, they didn't have, to replace
That they've never,
and I don't think they've been a great team in the air anyways. I don't think they've had, they've been better on the ground than sending balls in the air. And but ideally you want your number, not because, the way Brandon and Dewan play, you want to be able to have that option to cross it in on a header for a guy, and you can't do that. I think a long-term problem that's not going to really affect anybody this weekend, but I think going forward is that I think the Revs don't really have any depth in, their outside back positions.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be something people should watch out for if DeJuan Jones ends up getting transferred. The U.S. men's national team product, I think, is going to end up somewhere, either in Germany or Belgium at some point. Just it seems like the reporting is all pointing in that direction. And who knows? I think if, God forbid, Brandon Bai goes down with an injury, I don't know who they're going to bring in as right back, to be honest.
Oh my God, you guys are going to have janitors playing the left and right backs at this point.
There's not a tremendous amount of depth there. So,
I just want to say something real quick, Danny. Esteban Dito chimes in. Join the club. He's trying to tell you, Tommy, to join the club. There's a lot of Banana Republic nepotism going on in Miami. Just wanted to bring this up to tell you, don't worry about what this guy Esteban Dito's saying. Like I said,
you guys don't like having Neville and Beckham's kids? You guys don't like having Neville and Beckham's kids hanging around the club?
Well, Beckham's kid isn't here anymore.
Oh, he's not there anymore?
Okay. No, he's playing. He's over in England. But Harry Neville is getting playing time.
But Harry Neville's kind of a baller, right?
Harry Neville's gonna play this Saturday. He's gonna start.
Like if he doesn't have Neville on the back of his jersey, fans would be like, "This guy is
100%
pretty good." But because
100%.
he's a Neville face, right? Everybody's like, "Oh my God, Neville!" And then of course Esteban Dito's one of those guys that wants to fire the coach every 5 minutes. So, I mean, come on, Esteban, do better.
All right, so I was here looking at your schedule. I want to see what kind of competition you guys have beat. You guys beat Charlotte, which sucks. You beat Houston's okay. Got your ass kicked by LAFC. Nashville, that was a good win. You beat Nashville 1-0. Then you beat DC, they suck. NYCFC, you drew. Montreal, you kicked their ass, they suck. Columbus, you drew. Sporting KC, fucking sucks. You beat them. You beat Hartford Atlantic in the U.S. Open Cup. Cincinnati, good team. You drew. You beat Toronto. They suck. And then you lost your USL game last week. I'm feeling pretty good after looking at that. I don't think you guys are as impressive as I thought.
I would say you're onto something. Because no, not that they suck.
No, I didn't say that they suck.
There is something to be said about the way the schedule has played out so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
Up until this past weekend, I didn't think that the Revs have had a convincing win all year. To be a first place team and to be sitting in the position that they were, when you saw how they did against, I think, the top half of the conference in the East, kind of some mediocre performances. I thought they should.
And 7 out of the first 11 games were home games.
Yeah.
They did well at home. But when you saw I thought Nashville was a decent win.
Yes.
Probably could have been better. I think
that's the one I saw.
And with, I think long term, everybody's going to look at that. Yeah, it's a good win. But when you watch that game, Bruce talked about it after the Nashville game about how they played too negative in the final 20 minutes. So in a game that you largely dominated for about 70 minutes, you kind of took your foot off the pedal in the final 20, and you let Nashville think that they could steal a point on the road. Then you go to the New York City FC game where you're clearly the better team. You let New York City FC get a late goal, and they walk out of there with a point thinking that they're all high and mighty. And I think we've seen the last couple of weeks, don't put money on New York City FC, period.
No,
and then Columbus, I thought was a moment where because everybody agreed that was going to be a tough game out there, and you are able to get the early advantage on the Crew, but then you give the game away because you get a stupid red card with Barrera. So I thought that that was a tie again, another frustrating result. Up until this past weekend, I didn't think they had a convincing win so far this year. So I think now that they've got that under their belt, I think it'll be interesting to see how you carry that momentum into this weekend against Inter, which, Toronto was coming off a win against New York City FC. So they thought that they were getting their feet under them again. Then the Revs brought them back down to earth. In an ideal world, that's what you want to do this weekend if you're New England. You got this team that's kind of riding this little high right now because you're on a 4-game win streak. But then here comes Big Bad Bruce, the miserable old curmudgeon that's going to bring you back to reality and show you how it's done in MLS and how this is, a little bit different. So,
Yeah,
we're celebrating 4 wins in a row because we have to, because usually we wouldn't consider those Open Cups necessarily be talking proudly about them, right? They're a win, regardless, they're a win. But we're every time you hear we're on a 4-game winning streak, and it's because that was preceded by a 6-game losing streak. So
and to be honest, you got to take account into those U.S. Open Cup games because the Revs played last night. They just lost to Pittsburgh. And the reason why I'm saying that you don't start Vrioni this weekend is because he had a horrid, can I say shit performance against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So it's when you can't do it against a USL club, how can I expect you to do it against a team like MLS? Miami? That, and it's on the road. And it's just, no. So, hey, all these games matter. Every single one of them.
All right. So, reason we should be optimistic that we're going to kick the overrated New England Revolution's ass.
Reason to be optimistic.
Right. You're a betting man. So why would you put money on Miami this weekend?
And we're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of factors.
I don't know if I would put money on Miami this weekend. I don't know if you guys do have much to be optimistic about anything this weekend.
You guys suck. That's what we have to be optimistic about. You guys are overrated.
Maybe that the Heat are going to play this weekend in Miami.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing you got going for you. I think this is a very good.
The Panthers also. The Panthers also.
And the Panthers. And you're such from Brooklyn. You turned your back on New York.
No, I support local teams. I'm still a Ranger fan. I'm still a Nets fan, but I like to stick it to.
I'm a Nets fan wearing a Miami Heat jersey.
Hey, I got to. I rock it.
Listen, I think the Revs are the better team on paper right now. So I think if you're going to be optimistic about anything, hey, Joseph Martinez scored this past weekend versus Atlanta. So I'll give you something. Along that same line, the Revs give up a lot of shots. As good as a shot stopper Georgi Petrovic is, the Revs give up a lot of shots throughout the course of 90 minutes. So if you can start to open up the shooting gallery a little bit, between Campagna and Joseph, you could possibly, you probably, I could see it, the Revs giving up 1 or 2 goals. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
You guys give up the 4th most shot attempts against. You guys have given up the 4th most.
Yeah, so there you go. That's it right there. I think
we've given up the 2nd most.
It has to be the top 5 because
right.
as good as the Revs are offensively right now, they also give up a lot on. But that's the way they play because they play such a high pressing game. That's where guys get in behind a lot. But that's the thing that's really nice is that you didn't see that this past weekend versus Toronto. So it's if you can keep that same system, going into this weekend, it should be a good night for the Revs, but the problem is that can they find that similar performance?
And Danny, before you move on to the next part, I want to mention something. I think that a good test for New England is going to be these next 6 games.
Absolutely,
because you guys have 4 out of the next 6 away. That's really going to be a hell of a test.
And I think that's that's where you learn a lot about how good this Revs team is. If they come out of this stretch here, because it goes Inter, Philadelphia, you're home against Chicago, and then you're on the road versus Atlanta, then New York City FC.
Yeah.
If you can pull points in every single one of these upcoming road games
Playing in a baseball field.
Oh yeah, good luck playing in that
Ballpark.
sandlot. That's Yankee Stadium.
Jeez.
You're not gonna get any points out of there.
Bruce will be happy with one, and I think a lot of people that go in the Yankee Stadium will be happy.
Yeah, man, that's the biggest home field advantage I've ever seen in this league.
But that also might help the Revs too. Well, when just because of the style that they play, just a more narrow way with just how athletic and fast Dwan and Brandon are. They can really kind of find a few fast break opportunities if you get guys in behind. But I think, to your point about these, next several road games between Inter, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, coming out with 7 to 9 points, that's going to really, that to me is the barometer of a really good team. I think it could all go really bad, these next couple of games. It depends on guys got to be healthy. Guys have to stay healthy here. It's starting to get a little fragile. Your depth has been good at times, but I think it's kind of, it's been questionable too. So it's kind of a double-edged sword this year. It's been good and bad.
All right, so prediction time.
Okay,
we'll start with Tommy 2 times. What's your prediction?
I'm going. Go back to you. Hold on. Let me go back to.
While you're thinking about that, I want to mention something here, right? So Matthew's been on fire since he got into the chat here, and he's mentioning if we could just trade Pizarro and you give us Carlos Gil, and he says Pizarro is a Mexican Messi. He swears it. Okay, he swears it. So I think that is solid. By Matthew.
I think that's how Bruce. That's how Bruce goes off of negotiations. They hear from the agent, yeah, he's just like Messi, I swear, and then the signing happens, and that's how we ended up with Giacomo Vrioni.
And then we got
a disaster. I can't emphasize enough how much I do not like this Giacomo Vrioni signing.
Ooh. And then he also mentions about the AstroTurf being horrendous. And he'll never forget how Gillette Stadium bodied Campana for 3 to 4 months. So and Danny, we gotta see New England June 10th.
I know we see him less than a month later.
Yeah, so that's fun times, Matthew. Prepare everybody's legs for that. So what's the prediction here, Tommy 2 time? I want to know what you think the score is gonna be. How can people make their money off of your prediction? Let's go.
I would say, well, first off, I would say both teams are probably going to score in this game. It kind of has the feeling that Campagna and Joseph should do better than what Bernardeschi and just it was a whole mess last week for Toronto. So I think it's going to be a lot. I think this thing ends up 3-1. 3-1 final answer. 3-1 final answer, New England.
Wow, that's bold as hell.
They put 2 goals away last week versus Toronto on the road. So, yeah. I feel confident saying that it's going to be. I think it's going to be a road win. But I definitely see. I think it's going to be hard for the Revs to keep back-to-back week shutouts on the road. It'd be really impressive if they do.
Nice.
Chris, but I think what do you think? I really do think this team is with their first choice lineup as of right now. They're clicking so much that I think it's going to be. I think things are really good right now. I probably just jinxed that, so you can clip this.
Sure, hope so.
At the end of the game on Saturday, and then repost it, and then make sure you use the hashtag, because there's nothing more that the hashtag loves than trying to dunk on me. So this one I'll own. Well, I will feel bad about this one because it has been really enjoyable not watching a crappy team, which is what we had to endure all last year.
Well, what are you thinking, Chris?
Well, Esteban Dito is thinking along the same lines, 3-1 with an own goal. I mean, Esteban, what are we doing here? Like, you have no belief against soccer players scoring a goal at home. So the only goal we're gonna get is an own goal. I guess he's just seeing what happened yesterday and just assuming the same thing is gonna happen this Saturday, which is wild. I think that this game coming up is probably gonna be like 2-1 for Miami. I'd like to go 2-2, but I feel like the 4-game winning streak just makes people feel better. So that's my prediction. Don't put the house on it though, because I'm not that confident in it, guys. Danny, what do you think? What do you think?
We've played 5 home games. I mean, I guess if you want to include yesterday's game in that Open Cup, 6 home games this season. We've given up 5
you
goals.
You really don't want to count you don't want to count those Open Cup games. Like, what's wrong with you?
Not for statistics, because you're playing against the USL side. But if, like I said, if you want to count that 6 home games, we've allowed 5 goals in those 6 home games, and we gave up 3 against Chicago. So outside of that, we've been pretty solid defensively at home. We're playing the whole crowd the box, play the counter. I don't know how you're gonna break that up. I really don't know how you're going to score on that. I think we can get 1 with Campana and Joseph hopefully starting. And now that I know that New England's overrated from what I just saw, I really do think that we can go ahead and at home we could pull off a 1-0 win. So I'm predicting 1-0 win.
Oh, that's that. I can't see the Revs losing 1-0 on the road. That I can't see.
And you know what? That's the part that I'm going to clip. I'm going to clip that part where you can't see it. And then I'm going to put in captions, can you see it now? 1-0.
Can you see me?
So
Yes.
1-0. I think 1-0. And because once we get that first goal, I know what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to sub in McVay. We're going to just crowd that
Play
box.
full-blown defense.
And good luck finding any passing lanes. Unless you hit a beautiful shot from outside the box, you're not scoring. So
the Revs take a lot of shots outside the box. They're a pretty good long-distance shooting team. So, don't think that's like, oh yeah, because the Revs have to shoot it out, outside 20 yards outside the box. It's
you guys lead the league in goals outside the box.
Yeah. So
yeah, you got 4.
So now that we covered, yeah.
No, well, what's gonna happen is that you guys are gonna have the possession. We're gonna let you have the possession. We're playing the counter attack all game long. We're playing the counter, so you guys are gonna win the possession game all day.
I don't think, but you can't let New England dictate the tempo from the beginning, because if they do that, then you're not gonna. Yeah, I think that's kind of what's been working for New England this year. It worked against Nashville, certainly, because they came out in the first 15 to 20 minutes. Nashville had no answer for what the Revs were doing offensively, being able to move the ball around so effectively. Creating lanes, keeping the pressure high, not allowing Nashville to really connect on any passes. So, if they can start out games like that, and the Revs are winning the possession battle, don't get excited.
Oh, look, we're gonna let you get the possession. That's just what we do now. Like when we were on that 6-game losing streak.
Hey, if they lose, that's good for me. So you keep on saying like. That's good for my business. You know what I do?
Yes, I get you. I know how that business works. It's easy to talk about misery. The Revs, if they have possession, that's what we want, because when Inter Miami was on that 6-game losing streak, we were winning possession 60 to 70% of the possession during that 6-game losing streak. Then they changed it up. They're like, we don't have the players for that because we can't finish in that final third. So we decided to just go, we're just going to play that counter attack. So we're just defending for our lives and catch you on the counter. And all we need is 1. And once we get 1, we buckle down on defense and kind of just let you pass the ball around within yourselves.
Sure. You just have to pretty much, the athleticism needs to be better than, what you get from DeJuan Jones and Brandon Byon on any given week. I think, those guys are just ridiculously quick. They cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. And if you can't
play on the left, right?
DeJuan on the left, Brandon on the right. I think you're outside.
You're talking about Brandon Byon.
Brandon Byon, yeah.
Gotcha.
Those 2 guys, if they're having a bad night, okay, then I think you have something there if you're Miami. But if Brandon and DeJuan are on, they're probably the most effective 2-way players in the league. amongst the best. So
Right. All right. Well, to finish up, we usually like to ask you guys we like to ask opposing team podcasters about the game day experience.
okay.
What's it like? Is it like a tailgating experience? Is it like bars and stuff around the stadium? Do you guys have any rituals before you guys go into the stadium when you're in the stadium?
I mean, there's Sam Adams everywhere, right? And
I'll
muskets.
probably get killed for this, and I really don't care. But it's kind of soulless.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
It's New England.
I mean, you have the Riders and the Rebellion, which have been around since the inception of this thing. But I don't think the supporter culture is at where it is with Miami. I don't think it's there. LAFC. I mean, you can make fun of Yankee Stadium all you want, but New York City FC has a great support group, it seems like.
Do.
The Red Bulls, as fractured it might seem, when on game day, those people show up.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it, I think, just has to do with the fact that, this isn't the best soccer market at times. And I just think
I can see that.
You get a lot of casual people. I think, the diehards, all the diehards for the most part either live on Twitter or Reddit, and that's not a big percentage of people. I think you get a lot of people that come check it out and they're like, oh my God, I love watching the Revs. But how many times do they come back?
Right.
That's kind of but now granted, attendance numbers have been a lot better in the Bruce Arena era. You have, I think, a much more engaged and smarter fan base than you did 10 years ago. But in terms of what a game day ritual looks like, I mean, you could tailgate, but I mean, people aren't marching into the match together. There isn't a bar at Foxboro that everybody gathers up at and goes to beforehand. It's just a very dry experience, as dry as it gets when it comes to the support. And listen, it's not a slam on the supporters culture.
No, it's just what it is.
It's an honest observation for somebody that didn't grow up a Revs fan. Like, I'm here because I cover sports and I've been covering people, in the New England area sports wise, since I've been in college, and I never left here. I'm born and raised in New York like you guys. I just really like the New England area and the Boston area a lot. And I've always enjoyed working alongside and covering the crafts and covering whether it be the Patriots or the Revs. It's just been a lot of fun. So I've stayed here, but as, strictly an observer and somebody that, has never been a fan of the team, I just think that there's a lot of growth that needs to still happen. Some people will say it's because the Revs don't have a stadium in or around downtown Boston, but I don't think that matters. I think you have, like this last home game that they had, they put 30,000 in there, people, with no problem. So, and if you had a better rail system here in New England, you could get people down from Boston or up from Providence a lot easier. But the problem is that we don't have a train system that's reliable here, that A, will, take you to a Revs match on game day, and B, the crafts have to come out of pocket to get, the trains up from Boston and down from Providence. So it's, that's another, thing that if there's access to that, I think it would be reflected in the overall attendance numbers. But the problem is that it's not. So, you sort of stuck with what you got, and it's not a lot. And again, people are going to think I'm slamming,
no,
but I think,
we appreciate your honesty.
I think that the point you made about the transportation, it does make a difference, because I was actually looking into going to a New England game, against Inter over there. And when I looked into it, I noticed that there wasn't much public transportation to be offered to get there. I mean, you got to Uber, and you're not even in town, right? It was, it looked brutal, right? Because, as a tourist, I'm going to try to go to Boston, right? But to get over to New England to watch the game, it's not a stone's throw from where you'll be at.
No, if you're staying in Boston and you want to get to Foxboro, If you want to get to Foxboro from Boston, it's a 30-minute drive, depending on a good day. So that's probably a $40 to $60 Uber ride right there.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So it's like, again, and you're missing it. So that hurts you. I think if you had the train system, it helps. So
yeah,
there's when you're at a Revs game now, it's definitely great to be in there. But everything that builds up around it just doesn't exist to the extent that it does with an LAFC, that it does with the Seattle, with an Atlanta. Like, I think, like, to an extent, like, people should be jealous. Like, we should have that up here.
Nashville,
like the Revs are an original club, and you would think that that tradition would be reflected throughout the supporters groups, and it's just not. And it's just, unfortunately, when you try to have these honest conversations with supporters groups, it's very defensive. It's very it's very territorial, and nobody is willing to really to budge. Like, a lot of people are just afraid of change, and it's kind of just takes away from the experience. Again,
do they sing "Sweet Caroline" during halftime?
Oh God, no! Thank God. Back in the day, they used to play "Africa" by Toto, which was really random. It made no sense.
That's a classic.
But
it does make absolutely no sense.
I thought it was an overrated song too. I was never a fan of it. I thought it was always the most ridiculous thing. All of a sudden, everybody. But whatever. I think
and I want to
stupid little things catch on.
Let me tell you a fun fact about Africa Toto, and don't ask me how I know this fact either. Okay.
How do we verify that? Okay.
You need to go check it. If you go on YouTube and you look up Africa Toto, you'll see that there's a guy that's been posting that he sees that video every day for like the past 17 years, every single day.
So it's a video of him watching Africa?
No. It's Toto Africa, the main video, right? The Vivo video. And he just goes in there and he comments every day. Watching Africa Toto. The same guy comments 17 years. And people are like, yes. And there's people that are literally nervous if he misses a day. Yes. Swear to God.
The commitment.
Fun fact.
All right. Well, now that you just threw random things out there, my brother, his wife, and my parents were all just in England. And they came back, and I was talking to them today. This is off topic. I'm sorry. And if you're listening on audio, I apologize. I'm going to pull up something on the visual for you guys on YouTube. So if you want to check out what I'm about to put up there, check it out on YouTube. They told me about these public urinals that exist in London. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk to somebody that works in the New England area. And I wonder if they've ever seen something like this. So I've never seen anything like this. Maybe some people in the chat might enlighten me. These are what public restrooms in New England look like in London.
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, I've never seen these before in my life.
What in the F is this? And if you don't think that people use them, there you go. What the F? This is what London is producing. Now, is this something that we see in New England, or is that just old England?
No, people just piss on the streets.
I feel like it's more respectable, a little more private. You're like right in the middle. And again, sorry for everybody on audio. You'd have to get on to see. I couldn't believe it when I was told this. And these aren't pictures that my family took. They told me about it, and then I Googled it. So if you want to Google it instead of watching it on YouTube, you can go ahead and Google public urinals in London, and that pops up. And Matthew in the comments said, I've used one of those. Oh, well, Matthew, okay. Where was it? Where was it in London though? Because I just don't. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
I mean, it looks like it's pretty efficient in terms of space, right?
It's efficient.
It looks like the size of a porta potty. It looks like the size of a porta potty. So you're basically fitting 4 porta potties into one space.
It's impossible. It's impossible to keep that private, though. At some point, you show. I'm sorry.
Well, there's a reason that
you show.
I think you're showing the entire time.
Yeah, you are.
Well, It depends on how far in you go in, right? Because they had a little
Yeah, but
area
would you
for
want to even
deposit.
go in that far because you don't know what VD? you can pick
Definitely
up
not.
again?
Definitely not. Look, Matthew said he was in North London, so it's a London thing. But
It's a thing.
that is something that was not brought over to the new world. Okay, well, I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to see what you thought. Okay.
No, God.
All
I
right.
mean, things are weird up here. Don't get me wrong. It is ass backwards most times up here. Don't trust me.
Does the sun come out over there? Because I know it doesn't come out over there in England.
You know what? It has been coming out more, and it's been getting warmer a lot earlier. And if that makes me pro climate change, then I guess I'm pro climate change because it has been fantastic to have 75 degrees in like April some days and like 60 degrees in January. So the sun has come out more often. And some people do credit that to climate change. And if that makes me pro climate change, then so be it. It's better for my health.
I just wanted to throw that up there for you.
Oh, thank you for that update, Matthew. Son of a bitch. All right. Well, I've got nothing else. I wanted to thank you, Tommy.
Wait, I got something for you guys.
Oh, go for it. Yes, please.
What do you think about the Messi thing? Because I know this is your white elephant. Our white elephant is the stadium that I blame your owner, Jorge Mas, for giving us all this hope that we were going to actually see a soccer stadium in Boston because he opened his big mouth to get his stadium in Miami. So
we still don't have it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So your white elephant is going to be this Messi thing. So on my show today with Michelle Kaufman, we talked about how, obviously this is, not just going to be a Inter Miami thing, but an MLS and Apple joint project because Apple is going to want it for the subscribers.
You're going to pay for Messi to score on you.
Listen, I think that would be fantastic. If Messi's coming up here and first off, he wouldn't do it at Gillette Stadium because he's not going to play on turf. He's just going to do exactly what Thierry Henry did. But I think I'm more confident now that Messi will come to MLS than not confident. And does it happen this year? Maybe it's yet to be seen. But I think Inter Miami and the league and I think Apple is desperate to a point where they want to get more subscribers to be able to lure in an NBA one day or get the MLB full time, or because all these TV contracts are coming up with all these different sports leagues, and you're not going to have regional sports networks anymore. And Apple, I think, is using MLS to kind of sell these other sports leagues. Hey, look what we could do for you. And I think Apple's done an amazing job in presenting the product. So my thing is that they are wanting more subscribers, and the only way to get more eyeballs on the league is to bring that freaking guy in from France. And I think they're going to throw everything at him. My other prediction is that Inter Miami won't be playing in their current stadium now. If Messi does come here, I do think you guys are going to hook up.
They're going to go to Hard Rock.
They're going to go to Hard Rock. That's exactly what we talked about on my show today. That thing's going to end up at Hard Rock.
I've been saying that for a couple of months because we don't have a stadium yet, and we need to because if they don't fill it up, it'll get close.
I mean, you're just going to outgrow your stadium like that. Right. What was it? DPK Pink Stadium?
Drive Pink
Stadium. Yeah. You guys are going to outgrow that thing immediately. So
a couple things about Messi. One, the fan base doesn't even like talking about it anymore because we sacrificed our season for it because we let Pozuelo, our number 10, the most important player on our team last year, go in hopes of keeping that DP spot open for Messi. 2, if he comes, it better be this year because I don't want to sacrifice another season waiting for him. And 3, he's leaving France. It's already like he's not going back to PSG. Busquets announced that he's not going back to Barcelona next year, and everybody's saying that it's like a dual package. So unless they go to Saudi Arabia, I don't know where else it would be because if Messi was going to Barcelona, Busquets wouldn't be leaving. So I think it's either Inter Miami or Saudi Arabia, and I just don't see Saudi Arabia. So he better be coming this summer.
Yeah, I don't see Saudi Arabia either. I talked, my co-host Mike De Silva brought this up, and he thinks that Messi's had conversations. We're obviously just all speculating, but he thinks Messi's talked to Ronaldo, and I don't think because he doesn't think Ronaldo's enjoyed his time out at Saudi Arabia either. Mm-hmm. Probably realized this is not the lifestyle for them, no matter how much money the Saudis are willing to give them. And the better lifestyle for him is America. Like yeah, he'll go back to Barcelona. He'll be the hero, but he's already kind of done that. Why don't you get $500 million? Because you're going to end up getting part ownership of an MLS team anyway. So that's all money that's going to be factored in. And then become the king of Miami and have Buenos Aires, Miami. Why not?
Well, we have the Argentina training facility being built out here. So,
and look,
That's
and
even
look
better.
at the
I didn't even know
comments.
that.
Look at these comments back to back. I mean, this just shows you sort of the emotions going through the fan base. Lucas chimes in, says Messi's not coming. People are delusional. And then we have Matthew chiming in, Messi is coming, I swear. I mean, you're right about the big play being with Apple. And listen, Danny, you keep mentioning our team's willing to pay for his, contract. You have to understand that one game of Messi playing in your park is gonna just throw tons of money towards the.
We were having this debate with Tommy last year from Atlanta of Scarves and Spikes. If you guys haven't checked,
last podcast,
yeah, he was really upset at the thought of Atlanta's owner Arthur Blank or whatever his name is paying for
a
part of
check.
Messi's contract, and I was trying to tell him, you do that because Messi coming over here and growing the league in general gives Arthur Blank a lot more money. His team will be valued even higher. The league is valued higher. And you know who really wants that? Apple wants that more than anybody because Apple got in this deal hoping MLS will grow. So Apple, MLS, and all the MLS owners want that even more than Inter Miami fans do because this is about the business behind Messi, not about us winning a championship as much as we want that. Steve Munoz, sorry, buddy, we got on an hour earlier, so you're on right at the very end.
And Hazel Lopez wanted me to bring a comment that was brought up by Matthew. What's your thoughts on the logo, just real quickly, on the new one or the old one?
Who's Matthew?
Matthew Hanau. That
guy. Brought out guy. I was sorry. I was like, I like the new one. I think the new one's a lot better. It's a lot more professional. Crayon flag is MLS 1.0. It's very 90s. Again, I'm not a fan. I'm somebody that just comes up here and enjoys, covering the team. Yeah. I think this is, I think the crayon flag drama, because a lot of people were upset when the Revs went from crayon flag to this logo now, which is originally known as the Ghostbusters logo. People were pretty upset about it because the nostalgia effect, but I think it's better this way. It's much better. It looks cleaner. It's going to look better on, the new stadium whenever that thing gets built. If it ever gets built, who the hell knows? And, I think most people would tell you if they wanted a stadium or an MLS championship first, most people tell you that they would take the championship before the stadium. And guess what? This is a winning market. That's all that people care about. You would pack Gillette Stadium out if you were consistently winning every week and you had a bigger name here. And I think that kind of hamstrings you a little bit, plus the public transportation. Don't sleep on Gillette. That's all I'm saying. I think a lot of people do because it's Gillette, but I think people do it for the Patriots, right? You come down for the Patriots, to not do it for the Revs is kind of, excuse making. Because people will show up for a win around here because there are a lot of bad. New England is known for anything. It's for having good bandwagon fans.
Yes. they're all at the Garden.
Tommy, where can everybody find you?
So New England Soccer Weekly airs every Friday on our YouTube page, New England Soccer Weekly. You can subscribe there. That's when the show drops. We're eventually going to go live from YouTube. But for now, you can check that's when the podcast drops. I'm also on the radio. The podcast airs on the radio show. So that's every Saturday from 7 to 8 a.m. on 790 The Score in Providence. You can follow me on Twitter at @TomMcQuinlan_IV. I didn't put my Twitter up there because very stupid of me.
Don't worry, I'll put it up on the Twitter when I tag you.
Gracias. So you can find us there, and we're going to actually be doing a couple of live shows next week. So just stay tuned to the Twitter page. And if you like the chaos of an MLS fan base, then there is no more chaotic fan base that I implore you to check out than that one of the New England Revolution by using the hashtag AnyRevs.
Well, let me tell you something. We get pretty bad, especially with that whole 6-game losing streak. It was rough. It was rough. Chris, anything else for the people?
No, that's it. It's time to go watch this Knicks whoop the Heat ass, which are currently whooping that ass 54-73.
And
So-
for those of you that joined us just now at 9 o'clock, that's when we usually come on. We went on an hour earlier, but feel free to go back and watch it from the start.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hit the
I
like
will.
and
I
subscribe.
will own this one. I asked these guys because I do morning radio up here in Providence on a different radio station. I was like, hey, I didn't realize you guys were live though, so I do feel
good.
bad. I do want to say thank you for being so accommodating to me.
Of course.
me
We
being a
appreciate you
pain
taking
in
the time.
ass.
No, we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
And I'll tell you this much. Lucas is pushing for a question, which I'm going to ask on Twitter, and you have to give a response.
Nah, give it to him right now.
Give it to him right now, real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
I'm on there. You guys are good.
All right, let's do it. There's a tradition that's been happening. I've been trying to shut it down, but there's a lot of people that like this. So let's just go for it right here.
Yes!
You got to pick an option. You got to pick a steak. You got to pick a toast. Let's see if you're
2 and 5.
Ooh, right out the box.
Five.
Right out of the box. That was
2 and
holy
5.
cr-
That's easy.
2 and 5.
So here's the thing. I am the steak king of the hashtag and of probably Twitter. I eat more steak than anybody, so I know what I like. I know how to prepare a good steak. Some people, when you follow
If it's
me,
a 2, it looks like you don't know how to finish it.
yeah, but I like flavor. I don't like eating dry meat.
Well,
Yeah, you're crazy,
The
Danny.
three is the way to go, though. You
No,
get some
it's
flavor,
not.
but you don't get
No,
salmonella.
it's
Like have a happy medium.
This guy.
It
Danny
depends on
doesn't
how.
know
Listen,
He's a
I like.
baby.
I like. It depends on. It's between those two. I like mine a little bit medium rare. Okay, some people like theirs a little bit medium. I want to see a little bit of blood. I don't mind a little bit of blood. It's all good. It's healthy.
You're a savage. You're a savage. How is it healthy? What the hell?
I don't know, but it is.
Well, at least you didn't say 6 on the toast like Italy Jet did, which he's never gonna live that down.
I mean, I like my toast a little bit more burnt because it's easier for the butter to melt. Like
I'm with you.
I don't want to be eating,
But I mean, look at number 6. Let's be real. Let's look at number 6.
Yeah, that I wouldn't do. But number five's a little toasty. If we get toasty, we gotta get toasty. You know,
I feel you. I feel you. All right. Well, we appreciate everybody in the chat from listening all the way to the end. For those of you that did join us, if you didn't, like I said, you can go back on YouTube and watch from the beginning. Tommy, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us since you have to wake up early tomorrow. Chris, I hate you. And we'll join you guys on Monday when we go ahead and recap a win 1-0 over the New England Revolution because they are overrated. They do suck. I'm not a Mets fan. Have a good one.